Wonderful oddities, and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to be starting a series that I've been wanting to do for quite a while now, I think over a year, and that is fixing the worst Mortal Kombat characters, starting with Meat. Now I know this might be a weird character to start off with, since most people would probably go with Kai or Jarek or Suhao or something like that, characters that have actual stake in the story, whereas Meat is more so considered a joke character. But I really think Meat has a lot of potential to be Mortal Kombat's body horror character, or just horror character in general. There's not really a horrifying just character that's just centered around being creepy. There's like characters with aspects of it, like Devora, Baraka, Reptile to an extent, certain characters that kind of dip into it a little bit, but not just a character centered around that horror aspect that Mortal Kombat has been kind of known for, especially in more recent times, with all of its slasher, horror adjacent characters that they've been introducing. So it's kind of shocking that they haven't had a character that's just completely horrifying. And I think you don't really have to make a new character, you can just take a character whose concept is pretty terrifying, but has been kind of treated as a joke, and that is Meat. I mean, he's a skinless man that has one of his eyeballs popping out, just bleeds everywhere, and his body contorts in many creepy and unnatural ways. So yeah, if I saw that in a dark alley or something, I would curl up into a ball and cry. But I really wanted to delve into Meat and see what I could change about his character that would make him into this kind of ideal horror character that I wanted. And I wanted to start a series. This was kind of like the first one that I was like, okay, I came up with this idea. Maybe it could be like a one-off video, but I really started thinking about it and I had ideas for other characters, so I decided to make it into a series. So let's talk about how I would fix Meat. One thing I want to get out of the way, first of all, is that I'm going to be basing this off of Mortal Kombat 1, so his story, his gameplay, stuff like that, it's all going to be kind of based around Mortal Kombat 1 and how it does things, because that's the most recent game, and I think that's just what makes sense. So his story is going to be basically what if Meat was in Mortal Kombat 1 in Liu Kang's timeline, if that makes sense. And speaking of which, let's start off with the story. Now, I am very not good at creating characters from scratch. That is why this series is called Fixing Mortal Kombat Characters and not Creating Mortal Kombat Characters. But with Meat, it was kind of hard not to just make him from the ground up. So I really wanted to take a base character, a character that has already existed in the Mortal Kombat 1 timeline, and turn them into Meat. Obviously not an existing fighter, because that wouldn't really make sense, but a character that was not playable, but could realistically turn into Meat. And you know, there wasn't a lot of options, since obviously most of the characters are playable characters. But there was one person who just kind of clicked in my head. It just all kind of fit in as soon as I realized the potential with this character and how they could turn into Meat. And that is someone we see pretty much at the very beginning of the game. This bald fellow. Yes, I'm turning this guy into Meat. You know, the idea sounded a lot cooler in my head, but now that I'm saying it out loud, it feels kind of weird. Now, part of his backstory, obviously, we see in Mortal Kombat 1. Basically, he goes to Shang Tsung to try and help fix his daughter's sickness, because Shang Tsung is advertising himself as like this magical healer who can cure any disease and stuff like that. So the man goes to Shang Tsung trying to help his daughter, but Shang Tsung is a scammer. So the man, his daughter dies, and he goes to Shang Tsung and exposes him to the rest of the town or outworld or whatever, and Shang Tsung gets run out of town. But that's the last we hear from this man, who should really have a name, because I don't want to just keep calling him man. It just keeps reminding me of the Batman Arkham Reddit. But as we all know, Shang Tsung gets embedded with his classic sorcery abilities from Kronika / Damashi / alternate timeline Shang Tsung, and he goes back to just being like the normal Shang Tsung that we all know and love. And so I was feeling there was a little bit of gap in story there. I feel like something that Shang Tsung would do would be to go back to the people who had wronged him in the past, now that he has this new power, and get his revenge. So what I think Shang Tsung would have done is go back to that man specifically, because, you know, obviously the whole town wronged him in a way by just completely throwing him out, completely rebelling against him, but it was that man who exposed everything, and the town wouldn't have done all that stuff if it wasn't for him. So I feel like he would have really wanted that guy specifically, and brings him down to his flesh pits. That sounds really dirty. And so he brings him down to the lair and just experiments on him, tortures him, just kind of sees the extent that the human body will be able to go to without dying, and he ends up creating meat after years and years of experimentation. And this gives the man all sorts of gross body deforming abilities and turns him into the meat that we all know and love. But not really the meat we all know and love, because let's get into the design. Now, before I get into the design, I first want to shout out the person who actually made it, Ren. They have helped me immensely with all of this. This video could not happen without them. I suck at any sort of design that isn't just like putting thumbnails together and stuff. I can't draw, I can't do any of that stuff. And so this was really, really helpful. They met every demand I had and then some. So if you want anything commissioned, their Ko-Fi link will be in the description below, as well as all their social media. They were very, very helpful. Give them a follow. Give them a nice artwork, bro. Message or something. And yeah, because really, really a lot of help. Without further ado, here is the design. Now, I wanted to keep it kind of basic. I didn't want to completely change Meat's design because, you know, I like the original one. You know, it's very, very simple, but, you know, it's simple and effective. But I just wanted to add a little bit of extra detail because, first of all, I don't really think Meat's classic design would really fit into a more modern game. I feel like NRS specifically would definitely kind of give him more detail. And so that's what I was kind of going for with it. And I also wanted to kind of make the horror aspect of his character more apparent. So, you know, you can see a lot of changes that just like make him appear less human. Like, you know, obviously the original Meat is just like a human with no skin, and that's it. But I wanted to make him feel less human. So, you know, there's stuff like the weirdly like vibrant red skin, which actually was Ren's idea. So huge shout out to them. I mean, it wasn't really like their idea. They just like made him that shade of red, and I really liked it because it just, like I just said, it just made him seem less human because nobody's muscles are like that red. But I really liked it. Same thing with the eyes as well. Black and red eyes. Obviously, no person on this earth has natural black and red eyes. So that was something that I wanted to include just to make him feel more monstrous. Also, the blood-soaked wraps and the shackles around the wrist to just make him feel like kind of a prisoner, kind of like someone who's been trapped away for long amounts of time. And so I just feel like it all just came together really nicely to make this design really show the changes I had in mind for Meat's character. The two biggest things, the two biggest changes is firstly on his back. As you can see, there are a lot of bones as well as kind of on his legs and stuff. That is a kind of a new ability that Meat has where he can grow like these deformed, jagged bones from his body, specifically from his back, and he can use them to break them off, slice into people, stuff like that. We'll get that more into that with the gameplay stuff, but you know, I have a lot of ideas when it comes to the way that Meat can deform his body. But the second big change is the meat hook, which is comically large. I love how large it is because not only is that important for silhouette reasons in character design, there's this like idea where a character should be recognizable just from their silhouette, and having a gigantic meat hook would just make that more apparent and make their character stand out more. But also, it just fits MK. Like, comically large weapons, yeah, that's Mortal Kombat for you. And so yeah, that's all the changes that I wanted. I haven't seen the original Meat in a long time, which probably should have looked at that before I started making this video, but oh well. But yeah, I'm pretty sure those are all the changes that are on the design. Ren had some ideas like, well, firstly, like I said earlier, the skin color, but skin color? Muscle color? I guess that's how you would say it. But also the meat hook being like in his hand. Originally, I just said like, I don't know, have him hold it or something. But Ren had the idea of like shoving it into his hand, which I thought really good idea and very fitting. So yeah, that's Meat's design. Again, huge shout out to Ren. Check out their links, stuff, all in the description. Check them out. Now finally, there's the big thing, which is the gameplay, the moveset. How will Meat change from, well, I don't really know what he was before. Don't know if he was like a grappler or a rushdown or whatever. How does he change from that to what I have created for him, I guess. Pop out a disclaimer that I am not a gameplay expert, so none of this is going to be like balanced, all right? Don't be going into this expecting me to have 100% accuracy in how this character would actually be implemented, because I am not a NRS fighting game developer, and I know nothing about any of this stuff. I know nothing about frame data. I know nothing about how moves work or what move should be a part of a character's moveset that won't make them OP, especially because this isn't an actual character and these are all just ideas in my head. So yeah, I have no idea how they would actually work in a game. These are all just my random ideas. You can criticize them if they're not balanced or whatever. I would appreciate that, actually, if you said that in the comments, but I just want to say don't expect like this to be super high tier accurate stuff for a fighting game character. I'm just shooting out my ideas, all right? Now for me, I would want Meat to be a chaotic rushdown character, meaning that he would be trying to get into close range and do decently long, high damaging combos, but where the chaotic aspect comes in is that he would have very unpredictable animations. They would be kind of very swingy, wild, kind of like if you just like took a random guy off the street and had him fight a martial arts master. That would kind of look like how the average match between Meat and another Mortal Kombat character would go. It would also help if that random guy that you got off the street was just a little tipsy, all right? But yeah, what I mean by unpredictable is that a lot of his moves would kind of look the same. Like a lot of his startups would kind of look the same and you don't really know which move is coming next. And I just think that kind of unpredictability of it could really lend to Meat's character of just being absolutely insane, horrific. Yeah. Now the downside to Meat's combos would be that they're very slow on startup, but that would be kind of made up for by the fact that they are pretty unpredictable because you wouldn't really know what's coming next. So even if you could react to it, you wouldn't know what is about to follow up. And obviously I'm not going to get into like super specifics with like specific combo inputs or whatever because we don't have all day here, but I would really want him to be kind of not only chaotic but very violent with his combos. So I would want him to use like all sorts of different body parts. He would use his fists, his elbows, his forearms, his head, whatever, and also like the backside of his like meat hook. Like I feel like just like bashing people in with that. I think that would be a very good look for Meat's character and give a really good insight to just like how monstrous and terrifying he is. And now we're on to one of the more fun parts, the special moves. Now I gave Meat 6 special moves because that's kind of the average from what I saw in the Mortal Kombat 1 characters, you know, 6, around 6 in that range. So let's get straight into the first one I have, which is organ toss. Meat pulls out an organ from his torso and underhand tosses it at the opponent, and I would think it would be kind of at an arc like Striker's grenade from Mortal Kombat 9, and also I'm pretty sure the older games as well. This would just be Meat's projectile. You know, every character kind of has a projectile, so Meat just has one. He's more of a rushdown character, so it doesn't really matter. And if you EX it, it'll kind of serve his more rushdown style because in his EX version, he'll throw 2, and the second one will stun the opponent, so they'll be kind of like dazed, wobbled, so Meat can go down for the rushdown combo, stuff like that. Second one would be hook snag. Meat swings his hook at the opponent. If the opponent is grounded, it hooks into their jaw, and Meat swings them around and slams them onto the floor. If the opponent is midair, it'll snag onto their foot, and Meat will slam them to the ground. Same thing. And the X version will pop them up for a combo. So, you know, more combo stuff. I thought this was a really cool move. I think it's kind of based off of one of Noob Saibot's moves, which, you know, surprise, surprise, Noob Saibot somehow makes his way into all of my videos. But I'm pretty sure that one was only in the air. This one works when the opponent is on the ground and in the air. So I think that's pretty cool. And then this one I think is my favorite. Deadly Hands. I don't have very good names for these, by the way. I just want to say, Meat walks backward into their opponent, and several small fetus-like hands sprout from his back and tear at the opponent, which will restand them. And then the EX version will cause a giant fist to pop out from his back and knock down the opponent after he walks backward with all the hands and stuff. This one is one of Meat's new abilities, which he can kind of grow new limbs and use them to like tear at opponents, stuff like that. Most of the time, they're in the forms of like these tiny little hands, which I think is just like little, just gross and disgusting, but I also love it because it's just perfect for Meat. Then there's Blood Barf, where Meat will puke a puddle of blood and guts onto the floor, and if the opponent makes contact with it, they will slip, like on a banana peel or on a puddle or something, and they'll become stunned. And the EX version creates a bigger puddle, and it'll last longer because obviously it can't just last the whole match, so eventually it'll fade away, but for the EX version, it'll just stay there a little longer. And then this one's my second favorite, Absorb. Again, not a very good name, I know, but whatever. Meat opens up his chest cavity, and any projectiles that make contact with him will instead be absorbed into his chest. The next time the input is done for this move, instead of his chest opening up and absorbing, the projectile will instead come out of his chest. So basically you can absorb someone's projectile and shoot it back out at them, and you can kind of control whenever you want to do that. I thought that was a super cool idea for a move. I'm sure it's been done before, but I think it's pretty unique for Mortal Kombat specifically. So yeah, I really, really love that one. And then there's one that might cause the most balancing issues, which is called muscle growth. And it's a long one, so we'll be here for a little longer. Meat's muscles grow, making him slightly bigger and do slightly more damage. This will last 15 seconds. But if you do the move again before the timer is up, the timer resets and you'll do slightly even more damage. But each time, the startup or the amount of time it takes for you to actually activate the buff will become longer by half a second each time you do the move over and over again. If the timer runs out, then the move cannot be done for the rest of the round, and Meat will become slightly slower and slightly weaker from exhaustion. Now again, I know this will probably cause balancing issues. I don't know if this move would actually work within how Mortal Kombat 1 specifically works, or any fighting game for that matter, but I thought it was a cool idea. I think it kind of makes sense for this new version of Meat, where he has a lot more control over his body. Obviously, the original Meat kind of had like the body contortion, stuff like that, but I really wanted to get more creative with it. So stuff like being able to grow muscles and like just get more powerful, stuff like that, being able to absorb projectiles, being able to grow these like bones, fetus hands, stuff like that. Like I really wanted to get creative with it, and so I did that, and I think this move will allow me to be a bit more creative, and you know what? That's what matters. All right, I don't care about your balancing issues. I don't care if he's OP. All right, Meat is my main, and I will beat everyone with him in my head because this isn't real. And obviously every character has a throw, so here's Meat's. He will tear out two of his backbone, spines, whatever you want to call them, and shove them into the opponent's stomach, and then he'll take out a large bone from his back and shove it into the opponent's head before either grabbing them and throwing them behind him if it's a back throw, or just pushing them forward if it's a forward throw, because that's how throws work. Then there's this Fatal Blow, which obviously in Mortal Kombat 1, the Fatal Blow is kind of only one move per character because you have your main character and you have your cameo character, so Meat is only going to do like one critical hit, whatever you want to call it. So Meat will slice through the opponent's chest with his hook before hooking the back of their heads, and then he would pull them down into his knee. Their skull would break, and you get the X-ray effect and whatever, and then he would just like push him back, and they would stumble back for whatever the cameo is about to do. And then there's fatalities. I'm excited for this one. In the first fatality, Meat hooks the opponent's jaw and lifts them up into the air. Meat's chest cavity opens up, and then those hands that I was talking about earlier, they come out and they start tearing at the opponent's stomach until the lower half of their body just completely detaches and their guts and stuff hang out, and it's awesome, but it's also disgusting because it's a fatality in Mortal Kombat, yeah. And then in the second fatality, which I wanted to be a bit more silly, the first one is gross, disgusting, disturbing, whatever, but then the second one, I wanted to be a bit more fun with it, and that's Meat will take off his head and slam it into the opponent's stomach. The opponent will start to violently gag and puke blood, and then their neck and their throat will expand as Meat's head just pops out of their mouth, and then they kind of like puke out guts and blood and stuff before falling to the floor, and then Meat picks his head back up and puts it back on. Yeah. I should not be so excited and happy about all this disturbingness. I can't believe I said that was the fun one. Jeez. And yeah, that is how I would fix meat. Or if you want to look at it in a more positive light, but this is YouTube, so, you know, most people like negativity, but if you want to look at it in a more positive light, how I would implement meat into Mortal Kombat 1. And yeah, you guys let me know how you feel about my new version of meat. Do you like him? Do you hate him? How do you feel about him in comparison to the classic meat? Do you think that he should be the new horrifying version that I've created, or the classic joke character, or do you think meat should just not exist and you never want to see his face ever again? You guys let me know, and also let me know what characters you would like to see next. Obviously, there's kind of a well-known set of not very great Mortal Kombat characters, so we have a lot to go through, but I'll always take suggestions first, so whatever you guys comment down below, I'll definitely make sure to prioritize. But yeah, make sure to check out the links in the description to all of Ren's stuff with their Ko-Fi, their Twitter, all of that stuff, their social media. Just check out their artwork. If you want to commission them, you can do that as well, and just check them out. They're super, super cool, and they were super helpful. If you're watching this video, which I don't know why you wouldn't, Ren, you're super cool. Make sure to also check out my Mortal Kombat Retold podcast, and my merch store, and also my Twitter and my Instagram, and make sure to give this video a like so that more people get to see it. Also, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and with that being said, that's it for this video, my fellow oddities. I'll see you next time.